person, or a non-believing person, or a transgressor, a criminal against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he will cry out. He'll say, woe to it. It says in the Quran, where are you taking it? Where are you taking my body? Where are you taking it? And, in our lifetimes, we drive everywhere. We drive our kids to school. We drive to work. We drive home. We drive other people. We drive our wives to the shopping malls. We drive everywhere. And this is not my translation, this is the translator of the people who translate the Quran. And when I read this verse, I thought, that is amazing. In the Quran it says, the drive that day will be to your Lord. The word drive. The word drive has many meanings. But the drive that day. And when we're on the roads, when we hear people, rushing, and people having road rage and things. And I often think, that's why when I'm on the road, I never rush anywhere. Hey, where are you going? Where's your destiny? Your destiny is 6 foot under. That's the only place you're really heading. You'll never have. What's the point? You'll get to A to B, wherever you're going, do everything. If there's any haste to be done, the haste should be in doing good deeds. Not running after the dunya. At the end of the day, where are you going? We're all going somewhere. And ultimately, we're heading, our destiny is 6 foot under. What's the rush? But you see the dunya just rushing. And the Quran says, the drive that day will be to your Lord. That will be the final destiny. That's the last time you'll be driving anywhere. And you're going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when they take you to the qabr, then the body is lowered into the hole in the ground. And then the dirt is thrown upon it and it's sealed. There is no air conditioning in there. There is no central heating in there. There is no one to keep you company. There's no lights. You're all on your own. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, so he neither believed nor did he pray. Rather he belied and turned away. The criminal, the transgressor, the heedless, he will remain in his grave alone. There's no one to sit with him, no one to keep him company. Sayyidina Abdul Aziz Dabbagh rahimahullah, he says, a porthole opens up all the way to Jahannam. And the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the qabr is either a pit of hell or a garden of paradise. And he will feel the heat and the fire and the smell and the stench of hell. And the person will be tortured within the grave. And there's a hadith relating to where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the qabr will stretch 70 cubits and then come and crush him, and his rib cages will squeeze him, go into each other. But despite all this torture and all this pain, the unbeliever, the heedless person will pray and hope that the hour will never come, because he knows, in spite of all the torture and all the pain in the grave, the day of reckoning, the day of Hashr, will be a lot worse. And then the second trumpet will be blown. Don't forget, when the first trumpet is blown, everything will die by the angel Israfil. So when the second trumpet is blown, everything will start to come out from the ground. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Yasin, when the second trumpet is blown and everything starts to come back to life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Surah Yasin, they will say, woe to us, who has woken us from our resting place? It will be said, this is what the ever merciful promised and the messengers were truthful. You don't forget, because every messenger that ever came always told you, one of our beliefs is the day of reckoning. That's in our aqaid, that's our belief, that we will be resurrected. And all the messengers have always said that. And it's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised, and that they will realize. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, the earth will be torn away from above them. The graves will split open. This man will see the heavens being cleft asunder, the stars falling and being scattered, the oceans in their greatness bursting forth, burning. The graves will at that time bring forth their contents. Every person, and it's worth remembering this verse, every person shall know what he has sent forth of good and bad deeds at that moment. Then you'll realize all the things what you've sent ahead of you. Then he will rise up and will be driven to the crowding place. When it says you will be driven there, it doesn't mean there will be a chauffeur driven limousine for you. Driven can mean to make you go, be forceful, taken by many different ways and means. And the angels will surround you and they will force you to the day of Hashr. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that day, in Surah Al-Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that day, the mother who is nursing her child will become careless of it. Mothers, the little children, they will start to ignore them. The mother who is carrying her child will drop her load. That day, mankind will appear as if they are drunk, yet they are not drunk. Indeed, the punishment of your Lord is great. In Surah Hajj, everybody will look as if they're drunk. Everybody will be concerned for themselves, running here, running there. Nafsi, nafsi, nafsi will be their state, just for themselves. A mother will come to her son and she'll say, oh my son, I gave birth to you. I fed you. I clothed you. I taught you how to talk. I taught you how to walk. I nursed you when you were ill. I did everything for you. Oh my son, just give me one good deed, so I have something to take to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the son will say, get away from me, mother. Be gone. On this day, I am in greater need than you. That will be the condition on that day. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Abasa, so when the trumpet is blown, that day a man will flee from his brother, from his mother, from his father, from his wife and his children. That day every man shall have enough to make him careless of others. You'll have enough on your own plate. From the previous verse, as if you would have quoted, you'll know what you sent forth. You will know what you're about to receive. You will be preoccupied with your own deeds. In the Quran, in Surah Abasa, he said, every man will flee from his brother. You'll flee from your mother, from your father, from your wife, your children. You'll run away from them in case they might ask you. You'll have enough on your plate on that day. So mankind will wait in the crowding place for 50,000 years. After which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most perfect, will come to judge them. And I was thinking today, as a business, most of you have taxes and things, and you have to have your accounts done, and then you submit them before the tax inspector inspects your accounts. In the same way, people say a long day, 50,000 years. But you think about this. Before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges you, the accounts have to be done. Even though the accounts are already done, you look at the Iraq's inquiry, it's taken so long to do. It's because so many people have to think. But everything that you've done in your life, even though it's recorded, you will be cross-examined by the angels. And you think about all those different segments in your life. Your work life, your home life, your married life, your life as a father, your life as a son, your life as a husband, your life as an employee, your life as an employer, your life as a friend, in all these different, and how many you have to account for every breath. You have to account for every glance, every thought, every moment. On this particular moment, why did you look at that? Why did you do that? Why were you thinking this? What was your intention behind this? Everything will be scrutinized. You think about how many seconds there are in a minute, and how many in an hour, and how many in 24 hours. And within every second, how many questions you're going to be asked. What your intention was at that moment in time. What were you thinking at that time? Why were you doing that at that particular time? And that will take 50,000 years. And then, once you've done that, then you will stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then when you stood before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call the unbeliever, call the sinner, the transgressor. And Allah will say, did I not give you cold water to drink? Did I not give you a healthy body? Did I not give you 20/20 vision? Did I not give you ears, hands, feet, belly, and sexual organs? Did I not give you the air to breathe, the food to eat, the earth to walk on? All these bounties that I gave you, that I bestowed upon you, what did you do with them? And the person will reply, nothing. That's what people do, don't they? Nothing, I didn't do anything. When you're guilty, you deny. People will deny. I mean, we see it with people who do things, and you ask them, why did you do that? And they say, I never did nothing. And the same thing people will say in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I give you all this, what did you do with it? And they say, nothing. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, where are your witnesses? And the angels that record and did your accounts and were with you, they will be brought forward. And they will bear witness against the unbeliever. And they will say, Ya Allah, he didn't pray in these particular moments. He used to drink. He used to fornicate. He used to lie. He used to curse. He insulted people. Did all these things. He turned away from belief. He was proud and arrogant. And then the unbeliever will say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm not accepting the testimony of these people. I want to be my own witness. That's what people do. Even in this world, people do the same thing. On Judgment Day, people will do the same thing. A person will then say, Ya Allah, I'm not. Why should I take the word of these angels? I want to be my own witness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fine. You want to be your own witness? You can be your own witness. we'll do it that way. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Yasin, the day we shall seal their mouths, their hands will speak to us and their legs will bear witness to that which they used to earn. So that day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you want to be your own witness? Fine. The mouth will be sealed. And the hands will speak and the feet will speak. And they will bear witness and testimony they will give to what the person used to do. Then the person will turn to his skin. I mean, this is where this expression, saving your skin, comes. He'll say, I was trying to save you from thinking, why are you bearing testimony against us? I was arguing for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, nay, when the earth is shaken, a true shaking, and your Lord comes with the angels in row, that day the fire will be brought near, that day man will remember. But how will that remembrance avail him or benefit him? He will say, woe to me, would that I had put forth something for this life. That day, after the punishment of the grave, after the suffering of the day of Hashr, after all the accounting, after standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and now the penny drops. Because a person always thinks, I'll wiggle myself out of this or something. But once you've spoken to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your body's testified against you, there is nowhere else to go. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Fajr, He says, that day man will remember, but how will that his remembrance be then? What benefit is going to do you then? He will say, shame on me. Would that I had put something for this life, if I'd done something for the hereafter. The person will remember all the ni'mats and the benefits and the bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. And one of the greatest bounties is time. There is no greater blessing than time itself. Time. It's the greatest asset that you will have. It's with time that you worship Allah. It's with time that you will gather your good deeds. It is with time that you can send good deeds for the next world. It is with time. And the person will remember how he squandered time, how he used to chill with his friends and sit and talk about football for hours and hours and hours. When I was growing up, I don't like football. And for the simple reason I don't like football, when I was growing up, my friends would talk about football from all day. And I would think, idiots. Idiots. And I was only young. I wasn't a religious person, but I thought, people who talk about football all day, and people do it, I see it. They have radio stations where people just talk about football. And time is so valuable that you're going to spend it by talking about football all day. And people talk about trivia, talk about cars. A car is an instrument that you go from A to B in. You don't need a degree in cars, but people do. I see people, and they spend hours and hours talking about cars and football. They'll just watch movies. They'll play Monopoly that takes 4 or 5 hours, as if they've got all the time in the world. And then on the day of Hashr, when you remember, you could have done so much good with it. And you squandered time. And the person will remember when he used to hear the call for prayer. And he didn't. We hear it. We do the same thing. How many of us hear the call for prayer and our ears prick up? We stop what we're doing. No. How many of us hear it and actually repeat what the muezzin says? If we're in the masjid, when we're sitting all pious and thingy, yes, we do. Half of that is an act. But when you're hearing it at home or you're hearing it on TV, when you're hearing it on the radio, you tend to ignore it because there's nobody else to watch you. And your person will remember. A person who didn't believe the criminal The heedless person, he'll remember. He'll remember when he woke up in the morning, the sun was up, and he missed his Fajr. But he still didn't pray. You know, if you've missed your Fajr, as soon as you get up, that is your Fajr. If you've missed it, just do your wudu if you're an hour late, 2 hours late, 3 hours late. If you've missed, you had intention to get up. I'm not giving permission here for people to miss the Fajr. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is if you have, by any oversight, by oversleeping, or you didn't, read it as soon as you get up. Read it. You know, do absolve the responsibility upon you. Read it straight away. But you'll remember the times you didn't. You'll remember how you abused people, how you conned your business partner, how you used to curse people, fight with people, petty things. These are the things you'll regret on that moment and that time, because everything is bygone then. But what good is your regrets? What good are your regrets on that day? Regret today. It'll benefit you. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, seize him and throw him in the blazing fire that put chains around him, 70 cubits long. Indeed, he did not used to believe in Allah, the most perfect, the most high. The angels will then drag him into the fire. And as he enters it, he will see friends. At the end of the day, you know the hadith where the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you will be resurrected with those who yet loved, and you will be with those that you love. And if you're a sinner and if you're an unbeliever and you used to go to the pub and drink and whatever all the rest of the things you used to do wrong, sit down, take drugs all the time, sit down and go partying and drinking, or whatever the sins may be that you used to be oblivious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your purpose for His existence. I mean, it amazes me. People die, and they say, scatter my ashes on, this football ground. What? Amazes me. People want their ashes scattered on a football ground. Their ashes. As if that's going to benefit them in any way, shape or form. People just don't use the grey matter in their head. How's that going to benefit you? Is it going to help your team to win? Doubt it. Then the angels will drag him upon his face into the fire. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, every time a nation enters it, it will curse its sister nation. So when you're thrown in it, you're not going to get a welcome. When you see your friends, they're not going to say, I'm glad you're here. They're going to say, you too? Shame on you. And that's what people do, isn't it? Have you ever noticed, if you ever go to a bad place, whether you go to a casino or whether you go to any bad place, if you see somebody there, first thing they say to you is, what are you doing here? That's what they say to you. What are you doing here? But then you turn around and say, what are you doing here? Yeah? And this is the same thing that will happen in Jahannam. When you're thrown into Jahannam, all your friends will say, what are you doing here? Yeah? And in the Quran it says, every time a nation enters it, it curses its sister nation. So he will be greeted with curses and be given a wretched abode in the hellfire. And the fire will just completely engross him from all sides and roast and burn his skin completely. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,